Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I have on a guest who is an acupuncturist, performs energy therapy, is an organic timeline keeper, and freedom poet. He is a knower and lover of Jesus Christ. Everybody, welcome Jeremy Malcolm to the show.
Thank, thank you
Welcome,
so much for
Jeremy. How are
having me.
you?
Good. Feeling good. How are you?
I am doing excellent, and I also have Mimi, my co host over here.
Oh, that's the one you're giving me?
Yeah, she asked for the cheer,
I
so.
asked for the children one, the yay.
All
That was
right.
much better. Take three.
Love it.
uh, So Jeremy, I heard you on a podcast with Kara Mosher called "The Jesus Freak Dash Quincy," and I was just floored. I mean, the information that you were given in that is the information that I have come to learn myself through meditation, through my research of conspiracy theories, and just my thoughts have all come to the conclusions. I mean, almost precisely as what you have shared. And we never met. That was the first time I ever heard anything about you. And I was just like, whoa, Kara and I had a lot in common as well. And it was just, uh, in today's atmosphere with Jesus, I feel coming to the forefront of everybody, it was just like, this has to be a sign, and I had to have you on here. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on my episode or on my show here.
Oh, I want to thank you. I'm honored to be here and just to speak and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get right into it.
Yeah, so why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
I'm an acupuncturist and I'm also an energy healer. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have been doing this for about a year now, and you know, I grew up in the church, but my walk with Christ hasn't been super consistent all my life. I mean, he's always been consistent with me, but I haven't really been consistent with him.
Okay.
So it's come to this point now where I've just stopped ignoring him and actually let him back into my heart. And here we are. It's just been a wild ride, crazy ride.
That's all perfectly worded for me. But except, you grew up in the church where I did not. I wasn't really taught anything about God as a kid. But you grew up with your father as a pastor, right?
That's correct. Growing up in a as a pastor's kid, you gotta be perfect. You got to be the perfect little Christian. So like I was forced to memorize so much of the Bible, which was kind of like a dreadful thing. When you're a kid, you don't want to be like sitting down memorizing the Bible when you're a kid. You want to go outside and play or like play video games or something. But nope,
Mhm.
not me. But no, it actually comes in handy though now, which is kind of funny. I'm very thankful for that because the Bible is a living, breathing energy. It's a living, breathing word that's been preserved for us, especially during this time where we really, really need it. Um, to be able to understand what's going on in the world. I mean, you don't like. I mean, there are many different books that talk about God and have different prophecies. And I'm not saying that like the Bible is better than any of them. I'm just saying that the Bible is pretty awesome and it's pretty alive. If you ever have the chance to really sit down and open it, you'll see what I mean.
Uh, I definitely think that the Bible is the most magical book ever written. I hear someone like Marty Leeds who will tell me it's a book all about numerology. I'll hear someone like Dave Matheson tell me how it's all about astrotheology. And then there are so many different people that see the Bible in a different way, and it works exactly for them. And I'm just like, and they're stuck arguing with each other. It's this way, it's this way, and I'm like, it's all of those ways. It's all encompassing, and it's so packed with information. And I didn't understand the Bible in the way that it's a story being told until I came across a YouTube channel. It's called the Bible. What's that?
The Bible Project.
Yeah.
Yes. Boom.
Bible
You
Yeah,
Project.
even
I
know.
love that. I love that YouTube
Yes.
channel.
Yeah. So
They explain
they're
things.
amazing. The way that they break
Super
it down.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little cartoon video,
Visuals
and
and
they're
all.
drawing as it goes. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool because it really shows how it's a story, and it shows that it breaks down. Everybody, I really suggest you go out there and you check it out because it really breaks down everything. You're like, oh, chapters 1 through 7 are this way, and then 14 through 18 are the same exact way, and this is why it's the same layout, and this is how, and it's just so perfectly, in my opinion, it's perfectly put together to help me understand the story of the Bible versus, what's encoded in the Bible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
no, go ahead.
yeah, there's that I totally agree. The Bible Project is a wonderful tool to understand the like wider narrative, of of uh of our spiritual journey as human beings. And the Bible is filled with really crazy mythical stories, which are, allegorical for the most part. But that just because they're allegorical doesn't mean that they're not true or they're not pointing to truth. And it really does take uh, spiritual eyes and ears to be able to fully understand what the Bible is saying. And that honestly just comes with practice, and it comes with being in constant communication with God, and prioritizing that, because that's really where you're going to get your spiritual food. Is you get it from the Bible, but you really get it first from always being in alignment with God and actually making the effort to get to know who God is. I mean, that was the full point of Jesus' ministry, is really to connect us back to our Creator, and not just to like understand our Creator from a point of like, how can I break you down? Like, how can I project myself onto you? Like, how can I make you into my image? And we do that a lot as human beings, but we never really stop to ask God, who are you? Like, who are you really? Like what are you about? Like, we never actually let God tell us who He is. So the Bible is a wonderful way to get to know God in that way. So yeah, go check out the Bible Project, because you'll understand a lot more of what I'm talking about if you watch those videos.
Right. And I do believe that most of it is allegory, parable, however, metaphorical. But I also, at the same time, I think it's literal. And it was literal people doing these literal things. Maybe they're not named the same thing that they're credited for there. Uh, and that it's not just happening, that it's also a historical location. That this was for this particular area for a particular reason, and
Right.
we get lost in our minds thinking that, oh, life was only there, so that's why it only talks about that. And we do that with society often, where because the way history is provided to us is we say, oh, Rome was in charge in this era, and then Greece was in charge in this era, and Egypt was in charge in this. It's like, no, they were all existing together at once, and someone
Right.
just strung it out as if it was at a different time. Not all of it was like that, obviously, but it's happening. All of these things are happening on larger and larger scales. Like, we have a town, then you have a county, then you have a state, then you have a region, then you have, it grows and grows, forever and ever. It's a never-ending fractal that's just repeating itself on a larger and larger scale, and it goes down
Absolutely.
to the cellular level, and it goes all the way up to who knows, to war
Yeah.
cells.
Exactly. It's so hard to fathom just how infinite um, God is, and how we are part of that infinite space. It's just our tiny human brains just literally cannot fathom,
Mhm.
how huge this really is. But but then I guess, like, I also think, like, as humans, like, we don't really, well, there are some of us who are called to understand these, like, larger things. I don't think all of us are, but there are some of us who are definitely called to understand these higher mysteries. But all of us are called to, at the very basic level, is to get to know who your creator is, number one, and number two is love each other, love one another. Like, that's literally the only expectation. It's like, actually, it's the hardest thing to do, honestly it is, but it's also, it's not like a long list of things to do. It's really just like, that's the only expectation for you as a human being. It's not for you to, like, open your third eye and get to know, like, all the mysteries all at once. It's like, I mean, some people, yeah, again, we'll go down that path, and that's fine. But for people who are just tuning in and, like, they have no idea, like, anything about,
start.
yeah, like, they're just beginners. Love people, find small ways to love other people and focus on that. Let that be your worship, because that's what pleases God, and that's what's going to bring you closer to him.
That brings me, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but that
No,
brings
no,
me
no.
exactly what the difference, and it's such a finite thing, such a slim difference between the truth and a lie. And the truth of love, as love thy neighbor as thyself, is the key to life, I believe. And if you take the reverse of that, and a Luciferian belief is to love thyself and do as thou wilt.
Right.
It's such a fine line between, because both of them are saying you are God,
Mhm.
and you are supposed to love. Now, what is the type of love that do as thou wilt versus do to thy neighbor as you would do to thyself?
Correct.
Now that branches off, and then you go from there is the very, very different beliefs in certain aspects. But it starts off there. So when people in the New Age community, when I hear people, Freemasons, I get a lot of Freemasons attacking me on Twitter because I call them out all the time on their bullshit. So when they tell me there's duality doesn't exist, when they tell me that good and evil are all God, which they're not wrong in what they're saying,
Correct.
but that's not the end level. They end when they see the finish line. They see the finish line, like, oh, I got it. Don't
Yeah.
worry. I put the puzzle together, and it's like, no, you still have so many more pieces because you finished too early.
Correct. I
Yeah.
love that.
So why don't you walk us through the New Age beliefs a little bit? My audience may not be familiar with them.
Definitely not. I'm not sure what you're meaning by New Age, but I'm about to find out.
Well, I mean, New Age is basically it's a more modern religion. A lot of people will not say it is a religion, but it is. It's a cluster of various different religions and religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, and esoteric beliefs that have been merged together to create a kind of like a string of understanding what we are and what the universe is. The New Age, I know a lot of people, have a lot of hate for the New Age. I'm not going to be here and say that the New Age is bad, because it actually provides a lot of information that's useful to your spiritual growth. However, it also has a lot of pitfalls, and it has a lot of inversions, and it can get kind of cloudy. Like Todd was saying, there is a difference between saying that, like, I am God and that's it, and saying that, like, I am part of God, or I am a child of God and I am returning back to my source. And you can see how that is kind of the same thing. I'm returning back to my source, meaning, like, I'm going back to God, meaning I will merge, and I will, and there was no true separation to begin with, but it's allowing a story to unfold. It's allowing a relationship to unfold, Whereas when you just say like, "Oh, I'm God, and then I'm infinite, and that's it, and I'm all powerful, and I don't need anyone to correct me," or that's when like pride and arrogance starts to kind of sit in a little bit. And a lot of people in the New Age, like, they don't even really realize that it's borderline narcissistic, and they just kind of go with what these teachers are saying, and they have no idea where these teachers are coming from, or what they do, or their practices are. So yeah, but I guess that's my understanding of the New Age.
Well,
It's yeah.
It's completely egotistical in that people don't accept Jesus Christ because they don't think that there is something bigger than them. Because
Right.
when you find out that you are infinite, you're like, oh, I am everything. I'm in control of all of this. They're all doing this for me. This is
Right.
all for me. I'm doing this all. And it's like, no, you can only find out that information through meditation, through psychedelics, through any way that takes you out of your human form. Because when you're in human form, you're in human form. And we're all in human form. And we're all equally in human form. And we are all part of a whole equally, no matter if you're homeless, no matter if you're the president, white, black, gay, straight, whatever, female, male, hermaphrodite, transvestite, everything is all equal. So whether you don't believe in God but look at humans and say, oh, we're all equal, or you know that you are God and you say, oh, we're all equal, that is a better understanding, is a complete understanding that we are all equal. And when you have do as thou wilt, that, oh, it only matters what I do because it's all for me, that is completely egotistical. And if you look at the chakras, what is the third? The solar plexus is I am. And what's the heart is what? I am love, or I love. There is a difference. There's a very clear difference to me. So,
Absolutely.
how did that answer your question about New Age?
Yeah, that answered it. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I think it's called New Age because it's, Satanism only has a certain niche that it can get to. Freemasonry has a certain niche it can get to. So, Luciferianism. So they call out all these different things. So then they're like, "Ooh, New Age," But it's the next trap. That's all.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Jesus in the New Age, Jesus is present in the New Age, but he's really kind of just not really that important. Like, he's just like another ascended master. Like, it's really up to you if you want to work with him or not. Like, it's just like, he's not like really anything too special. And I find like a lot of people in the New Age try like really stay away from him. And I mean, there's a good reason for that, because Jesus' name has a lot of power, and it has a lot of power to shatter realities. So saying his name can really bring you out of the spell that a lot of people are in. And then, that goes into, we can start talking about demons, because that's just part of our reality. And
absolutely. But before we get into demons, I do want to say that, like, as I was saying, how I learn is just through doing my own thing. I don't, I study loosely, I look at everything and I bring it in. So when just last year, I mean, Mimi can vouch for this. When I came to Georgia and when I was still in Pennsylvania, I had these ideals in my head that, oh, you don't need Jesus. He's just another ascended master. But the entire time I'm listening to, the only music I listened to was Jesus worship or Jesus Christian rap. Anyone talking about Jesus, because I knew Jesus was the only safe thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know where else I can go, but I know I can go here. And what ended up happening, I'm down here meditating with people and I'm telling them, I'm like, you don't got to call in Jesus. You can just say Christ and, that'll be good enough. And I was encouraging that type of thing.
Yeah, you were encouraging to actually swap the word out.
Yeah, instead of saying Jesus, to just say Christ. So instead of saying Jesus Christ, just say Christ. And I didn't have any New Age teachers or anything that I was even learning New Age, but that's just how it was coming to me, the information that I was receiving. And that's because I wasn't ready to accept Jesus yet. So So I realized that. But listening to his music, and I was having him with me the entire time. And then one day, I had a bad injury. I fell. I had 400 pounds of chicken and cheese on a little dolly, and it fell on me, and I landed smack dab on my root chakra, right on my ass, and I couldn't put my hands down to brace me or anything. Cracked open my root chakra immediately. So I'm psychic already. I saw psychic sludge come out of my root chakra, and I had a new one blown into place. Like I could feel it's like hot glass being blown. When it's real soft and you don't want to touch it. Well, that's how it was. And this was like a whole weekend process. And 3 days later, I threw up demons, and I knew it was demons. And anyone can look at me and say, "Oh, that's crazy to say that," but to me, that's what it was. What I saw was a snake tried swallowing me. So there was so much that happened, but I was throwing up. I wasn't physically throwing up. I was dry heaving, and I felt this energy just release off of me. And when I was dry heaving with my eyes closed, I saw my third eye, which was a crystal, which is my birth month. I forget what it's called, but Sagittarius crystal, that color, the turquoise color.
Okay.
Okay, so
Aquamarine. Aquamarine, is that it?
something like that. I'm not sure. But
Topaz?
maybe I don't know, but it was that type of color. So
Okay.
the snake tried swallowing it, but it was too much Christ for it. So then it spit me out as if that I thought that I was throwing something up, but it was throwing me up. That it was inside of me, and like I was inside of it, all in one encompassing thing. And the first thought that came to my mind was, I've been saved by Christ. And I threw open that bathroom door, and I couldn't walk for like 3 days almost. 3 days at that point. I was like crippled. And I threw open the bedroom door, and Mimi's right there, and I'm like, I've been saved by Christ. And she looks at me and she goes, I knew you were going to say that. And there was just like a feeling came over the whole house. I mean, it was amazing. And then, so after that, I started seeing in my meditations that Jesus has been by my side the entire time. And it was because I wasn't letting him in. He was just like watching me, like a creepy guy in the woods, just watching. But then
Not like a creepy guy.
No, it was. That's how I saw it. He was like creeping behind the tree, like pushing the branch down, watching me, seeing what I'm doing, and just like watching the entire way. And he's rooting for me. He's like, yeah, you did the right thing, and he was doing all that. And then it was like, I saw it from like a third person point of view, like, oh, he was always there with me. And then I invited him in, and he started chasing everything out. It just took me, because I had so much darkness in me, it took me a year and a half to chase out all that stuff, and it ended, with demons coming out of me. And so you wanted to talk about this as well. So what do you have to say on demons? You can comment on the story as well.
Yeah,
if you'd
first
like.
of all, thank you for sharing that, because it is it's never easy to go through a purge or a purification, especially with demonic entities. And again, it's just because a lot of people, like, they don't have any type of experience or education around demons, except for like Hollywood, which totally grossly misconstrues demonic energy, or it doesn't misconstrue it. It's just it programs you, it pre-programs you to be extremely afraid of it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people just, it's like a no. It's like a hard no the moment that you say demons, because they're automatically like programmed to just not want to have anything to do with it.
Right.
But I think what we all need to realize, though, is that, like, there is, number one, there's evil. People who don't who deny the existence of evil, like look at what's happening around you in the world. Like you can't deny it. There is such a thing as evil. And this world, this planet is currently ruled by evil. So that's the first thing. The second thing, when it comes to demonic energy, you can think of it more of like a force that kind of has like a hold over most of us. There is just something inside us humans which kind of calls out to them, or just like it kind of connects us to that realm, and we don't really see it or realize it because it's super covert and it's super subtle. Or even if we do kind of realize that there's like some weird stuff happening, like why are my thoughts so dark, or like, you know, why is this, you know, why do I feel this way, like this is weird, this is not me. Yeah, those are demons. Their main job is to get you to suffer, to cause suffering, and to continue on this fear matrix, because this is how they feed off of, like they feed off fear, they feed off of it. So they just perpetually create situations where fear is being produced in the human. So I mean, you can think of it like just like any other thing, like they have to eat, right? And they're just like, that's how they do it. It obviously goes way more beyond this. I'm just kind of scratching the surface with this, but I think what's important for people to know is that when we are on the spiritual path and when we are awakening, yes, we are awakening to our divinity, and we are awakening to our psychic abilities, and we're raising in frequency. But on the other hand, we're also opening up to darker forces as well. Like we're just opening up. It doesn't mean that we're just opening up to the light alone. Like we're just opening up in general. So that's where a lot of these demonic entities kind of start coming in. And in my own personal life, I had my awakening in my first year of university. I was being called to the forest, and I just went. I had no idea why. I was just hearing this voice calling me to the forest. You know, and that's where I started meeting like fairies, and I started meeting elves and all these different creatures, which I'm not calling, they're not evil creatures. But not all of them are nice. We have to realize that. And I was naive and I had no idea about, you know, boundaries, and I just kind of opened myself up to a lot of these beings, you know, like the Fae type beings, which were not for my greatest and highest good. I was opening myself up to them, but I was also opening myself up to demons as well, because they love that.
Did you see them, or did you just feel them? How did you experience them?
So I would see them in my mind's eye. I would feel them in my I'm very clear, cognizant,
Sentient?
and also clairsentient.
Okay.
Um,
That's a 2 I am.
Yeah, I can see too, not like physically, like I might see like a orb or like a flash of light or something, but I usually see things like in my internal eye, in my imagination.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so I would communicate with them that way. I can also hear as well. So you know, I was going through what I understand it now to be some form of shamanic initiation. I was being initiated by these spirits, and when you are going through this awakening process, in today's world, it really fucking sucks. Sorry, pardon my French.
Oh, you're fine.
It really sucks, because we don't have any mentors. We don't have people who have paved the way for us to guide us and to help us develop discernment, you know? So we're just out here like literally just
winging it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all winging it. We don't
Yeah,
even
we
know.
were kind of talking about this earlier.
Yeah. So,
Students needing teachers, and there's a big lack of teachers, or
there
at least
is.
teachers that are open and out there, ready to, you know, stand out.
And who's the one that we know we all can trust?
Jesus.
Yeah, and it's funny that you have all these abilities, I have all these abilities, and when people think Jesus, Mimi and I talked about this earlier as well, that they think religion, that someone, if I go up to someone new age and I say,
Jesus.
yeah, I say Jesus, they're going to think right away, oh, I'm better than this guy. I know more than this guy. I have to teach this guy. He hasn't got to my level yet. That's what that guy thinks. And I'm just like, no, I know all you know and more. You haven't got to my level yet. There's something beyond that trap door that you see there.
Well, when they think of Jesus, they just think of church. They don't think
Right.
of
They don't think of
anything
psychic
further than
abilities.
that word even. They just think church and shut down, and
Yeah.
then that's it.
Like,
And when you tell them, I'm not even religious, I didn't go to church, I learned this stuff by just learning about Jesus.
yeah, by developing a personal
Yeah.
relationship with Jesus Christ. I got on today. I got on no Jesus, no peace. Can you
Oh,
say
that's the thing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because
Like that's what Jesus brings. Like it's like
yeah,
this peace. It
right.
really is peace beyond understanding. And in the Bible, it's called shalom. It's peace
Okay,
beyond
cool.
understanding.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um,
say that from now on. I love that.
yeah, you can use that as a mantra for sure.
Thank you
Shalom.
for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
shalom. Okay, so that's why that's a prevalent word in the Hebrew community. Is okay, peace
shalom.
beyond understanding. I like that.
It also can be used as a greeting as well, but its main meaning is
That's a
a
good
peace
greeting
beyond
too.
understanding. Yeah, it is, right? It's like
Yeah.
peace be with you, basically, is what you're saying when you're saying shalom to somebody.
Yeah, I want to
Um,
know a good phrase I like saying is Godspeed. It means good luck. And what I like to say is we're all vibrating, so we have to vibrate at God's speed.
yeah,
Good luck.
absolutely. Oh, it's
That's how
so
you get
crazy.
it. Yeah.
And like just to go back on that with the what Mimi was saying about the church, um, yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but just based on my personal experience, um, I just find that so many of us, especially in the West, have like gone like we've somehow had our experiences with the church. We've all
Yeah,
had
me too.
some kind of experience.
Mhm.
And for the most part, it's been terrible experiences, like just terrible, very like judgmental, very like traumatic experiences. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I just feel like that is actually purposeful,
Mhm.
because when you have such a threat, such as Jesus Christ, um, these forces, like evil, and these they call in the Bible the Satan, which is basically just means the opposer, which is basically like a group energy, a demonic group energy. They don't want people to really know who Jesus is. And what better way to invert people away from Christ or away from the truth than using his own church? Um, and if you look at the modern church today, it's just filled with demons. Like God's not there. God is not there. Not all the churches. There's some really amazing people who have the Spirit, who call in the Spirit, who actually work in the Spirit, who actually use the gifts of the Spirit, which is psychic,
Mhm.
prophetic.
Mhm.
This is not like a weird thing in the Bible. The Bible talks about prophets all the time, and prophet just means psychic. Prophet means
Okay.
that
Yeah.
these people were born to see into spirit, to hear into spirit, and they are aligned or in allegiance with God. There are psychics who are in allegiance with the devil or with demons or with other spirits. Now, I think it's important to note that like if you go to a church and there are no prophets there, um, God's not there.
Right. We were just talking about this morning at breakfast with the elders, I'm going to call them now. Um, we were talking about the church and the lack of enthusiasm in some churches, or the lack of captivating your audience to keep them coming to church. We had a really great pastor when I moved down here, and then when he left, I stopped going to church because the new pastor just wasn't doing, like, it was like Jesus left, and he left, that left, and now I just watch it online now.
Yeah, I know it, and it's funny how the good ones always leave because they're either like coerced to leave, or like they can't change anyone's mind. They can't get through to people
Right.
because
I
people
think here was the Methodist church, so I think they have only a certain number of years, and then they have to move to the next church and kind of switch out pastors. I think that's how it goes. I've only gone to the Methodist church here. Where I was growing up, I went to Catholic church, so I know all about Catholic church my whole life and what that experience is. And I, couple that with a couple experiences at a Pentecostal church and a couple at a Methodist church and a couple at a Baptist church, and there's differences and there's similarities, but the main thing is you got to keep people wanting to hear more.
Yeah, you can't
right,
bore
and
people.
you can't bore people and you can't traumatize people
Right.
because
Scare them.
when
Yeah, you can't scare them.
you can't.
Hmm.
From my personal experience, I'm gay, and like I grew up in the church, and I heard every single Sunday my dad telling me that I was going to go to hell. I mean, not
Mm.
directly to me because I was, not out, but still, like I'd be like, oh fuck, like this is great. God hates me, and like I don't belong here. I'm worse than the worst. A lot of churches use the LGBT community to like scapegoat everything. They basically just use them as a way to make themselves feel better about their sin, which is which is ridiculous and against and completely unbiblical. So anyways, yeah, just giving you an example that like people who kind of make their way through the church, they're either completely disinterested because they're like, hey, like these people are just, like you said, like they're not getting my attention, they're not keeping my attention, or they're just downright traumatized. And when these things come up, when we ask Jesus to come into our lives, that trauma is going to come up. And that's one thing I've noticed in my life is that, like, when, because this has happened twice in my life. The first time where I called on Jesus was right after my first awakening and after that whole like debacle with all those things. And I had to, do a whole form of exorcisms on my house, on myself, on everything. And then I kind of was with Christ for a bit. And then I got, there were some shiny things that appeared in front of me and I got distracted and I'm like, I don't need Christ. I don't need Christ. And I went back into this like, this new age spirituality, false light spirituality. And then yeah, now I'm back again. And it's the same thing. It's just this trauma that keeps people from having a smooth transition out of, demonic influence, because demons will do anything they can to trigger you. Like that's what they do. Like the moment that they see that you are now getting out of their grasp, that they can't feed on you anymore, they can't control you anymore, they're going to do everything in their power to trigger you, to make you feel scared, to make you feel crazy, to make you feel all these different things. If that's happening to you, you just have to keep praying, because I'm telling you, there's really no way out of like that whole situation unless we go to God with it, unless we ask God to take care of it. Like it's just, that's just how they operate. So yeah.
So how old were you when you found out you were, or not found out, but when you realized that you were gay? When your father's saying these things, like how old were you when this started affecting you?
I think it was when I was maybe around like 11 or 12, like right around when puberty started hitting, and I started
So
noticing it. I mean, I've always noticed it, but I just thought it was normal. Like as a kid, it was just like a thing. Like I didn't even think about it. It was like, oh yeah, like this guy is attractive, and it's like I just thought that's how everyone felt about each other. And then when puberty hit, and then I started seeing how how the heteronormative the narrative was the dominant one, and I was like, oh wait, crap, I'm actually different, and this is not good, because the Bible says, or pastors say that I'm going to go to hell. So yeah, at that point I was repressing it. It's a whole
Well,
journey.
well,
A
I
lot of-
think that everyone forgets because everyone's so caught up in the masculine feminine duality that everyone forgets you're supposed to love everybody the same,
Right.
and because this world is so full of sin that we don't realize that sex isn't meant to be something that is occurring all the time.
Yeah.
And people think like, oh, because you have to be having sex with like this to in order to be what God wants you to be. It's like, no, God wants you to love everybody the same.
And that
Uh,
doesn't mean sex at
right.
all.
Right. You know, it doesn't. It means
Mhm.
you're just supposed to love everybody the same. You know, it doesn't matter. You know,
Right.
to us it does matter because we have those egos and we have our logical brain is fighting with our heart and we're allowing the brain to take over. But you know, you're supposed to love your daughter, your son, your neighbor, your best friend, your mother, your grandmother, some stranger, all with the same love. I mean, but we have so many different versions of it, and we have our idea of what those things look like. That if someone isn't fulfilling what we think that it looks like, then we say, "Oh, they're not doing it right."
Exactly.
We're so often judging others. We're externalizing God. We're telling others, "You do this, you do this." You know, you're a racist if you say this, if you're a bigot if you like this, and it's like, what? Like, hold on a second. Like, can I just be God of me and you be God of you? You know, can I determine what's right for me and you determine what's right for you? But it's not me and you that are determining what's right. It's God determining what's right through our discernment. You know, that's how it's meant to be. But the fallen, I'm studying the book of Enoch lately, and the fallen they are the ones who they came down and they gave us the information that we shouldn't have had. So they never allowed our brains to develop spiritual discernment. You know right from wrong by experiencing what wrong feels like and what right feels like. You know, like, oh, I'm going to go with this one. I don't like that other one. And that's how you develop spiritual discernment. But when you have all the information and then you're like, oh, I already know the answer. And then that's when we use our brains instead of using our heart and trying to find the answer. We think we already know the answer. And it happens with every step in society. Everyone's telling everyone else what to do. Everyone's telling everyone else what the way is. Everyone's telling everyone else what's bad, what's evil. Don't do that. Don't do this. You know, it's okay to do this. And the whole world is just ass backwards. I've seen it so many times. It's like that there's a sun like shining down into the center of the earth, and everyone's facing outward, and it's like some kind of elastic material. Everyone's just walking into the elastic material, not going any further. They're just trying to, and it's like if you just turn around, you'll go in the right direction.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for saying that. Like I just learned a lot there too, and
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense because yeah, like we have this desire to create or to define what is right and wrong, but it's like we never really ask our creator what is right and what is wrong. You know, we never let the creator define that for us. And I mean, I understand a lot of people just like they don't want to kick it with God because they think God is like they already have this idea in their head who God is. Like it's like some hateful, spiteful, judgmental person who's up in the sky that throws
And
down
he
lightning
lets
bolts.
bad shit happen. Yeah.
Right. A lot of people get stuck in their traumas of if there was a God, he wouldn't have let that happen
Right,
to
right.
me.
Like,
Ex-
why does
Right.
God allow that? And it is very hard to explain to someone
Yes,
who's
very.
very heartbroken.
Yeah.
And you know, I have an aunt, and she lost her husband, and she's convinced at that time anyway. She was convinced that this happened to her, that she is a member of God's family. She believes in God and she's spiritual, but she was having a very hard time. She kept thinking her idea of what her future was supposed to be was what her future was supposed to be, and I'm sure she's still struggling with it, in that she had an idea in her mind that this, we were supposed to, ride off into the sunset together, and now she doesn't have him. And why did God do this to me? If there is a God, why did this happen? And I see it so often with so many people, and it's very hard for someone to realize that their idea of what's supposed to happen has no bearing on what's going to happen.
Right.
Our ideas, our expectations, they really just they hurt us. They they put us in a place that if it doesn't go the way that we think it should, then it's evil, then it's bad, then it's happening to me. And why is this what I perceive is going to be good, something that I want because I want to be good, or I want something good to happen to me? Why is God preventing that? And uh, we never look at the option of, no,
Happening
it
for
actually,
you.
yeah, it's not actually good. That it would have actually been worse, and something much more horrible could have occurred. And we never look at it that way. We always imagine that it was going to be this perfect, picture perfect thing, and it's really hard to explain to someone that has that type of mindset. Have you had success with talking to people who are going through tough times, and how you can explain to them these types of why these types of situations might be occurring in your interpretation?
I mean, it is always a really hard topic because, you know, the way that I understand things is that we are sent here to experience very, specific lessons in order for us to grow and for us to understand who God is. I don't want to say that, like, people, like, that's why people are dying, or like some terrible things are happening, because yeah, like, still, like, there is there's just evil things that happen in the world. Like, evil is real and they do real things, and there's a lot of planning that happens in the background for these things to happen, but God always is in control. And I think that it's hard when you haven't when you haven't really worked on your ego, and you haven't really spent time on developing a strong relationship with God. It's really going to be hard to make sense of anything that is terrible. Just kind of, thinking more about the future, like where things are heading in terms of our society, and just looking at the world at large and what's happening. I truly believe like this is just the beginning of like some real crazy chaos. And I found that, even when terrible things are happening, and even if terrible things happen to me, my relationship with God gives me peace even beyond that. I
I
could
can
be
feel your peace in me, in my
I,
heart center. Not my middle, not my energy heart center, not that chakra, but my actual heart, and the willpower I can feel. And I felt it before we started. I didn't realize it was you I was connecting with before we even started. I said it to Mimi. I was like, I can feel my
Heart,
willpower center
You
lighting
did
up.
say that.
Yeah, I
oh my gosh.
can.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, I mean, it's this is that piece is contagious. you
Mm.
know when you invite the spirit into your heart, the spirit can work through you and can start moving through other people, and start awakening itself in other people. That's one thing I really want, I'm starting to understand in myself, is that everyone has the Holy Spirit in them. It's there. It's a seed. It's inside of them, but it needs to be awakened by Christ. It needs to be awakened by Jesus. But it doesn't mean that the Spirit never talks to you, or like it's dormant or something. It's always talking to you. It's always trying to get get you to look at the truth. But the truth is like the hardest thing to look at sometimes.
Right.
So a lot of people just want to look away. But when you have the Spirit in you and you're cultivating the Spirit within you, that means you're spending time in prayer. You're actually getting to know who the Spirit is. You're listening to what the Spirit is saying to you. That relationship is growing, and that light inside of you is growing. And when you come into contact with people, that resonates with the Holy Spirit inside of them. And that starts to activate something inside their own hearts. That's what I'm beginning to notice. So again, God is this other-centered being. The more that you are focusing on God, the more you are bringing his love to all of creation. It's the way that we can really come back into harmony in the physical world, is by understanding the Spirit, by embodying the Spirit, and letting the Spirit work through us. Because at the end of the day, we're just kids. We're kids running around in a huge garden, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're exploring, growing, creating. But we have to learn how to love. And sometimes, you know, especially in today's world, that's really hard to do. And the Spirit gives us the ability to go beyond our ego, beyond our trauma, beyond our pain. And, you know, in those moments when we just want to lash out, you know, the Spirit always checks me all the time, all the fucking time. Like, I'm going to say one thing. If you ever get into a relationship with God, just get ready to get checked all the time. But it's for your own good. It's really for your own good. And it's not just for your good, it's for the good of all. God is always thinking about the good of all.
Yeah.
What was that?
I would ask Mimi,
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was that look for that you just gave me on? Fill me in.
getting checked all the time. So I'm an energy reflector with
Oh, boy.
more reflecting in my profile and karma cutting in my cross. So I am like
He's the checker.
I am the checker.
Like in your face, the checker.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you know, I do drive them a little, you know, nutty sometimes, but I can't help it.
But he's just really throwing a mirror in your face, so
yeah,
Absolutely.
you can't really be mad at him, even though you want to be.
but yeah, so I mean, it happens, and this is not an ego thing, but it happens so often, and then whoever it is, they'll look at what I say, and they're like, "Damn, he was right," but because it's not coming from me, because the way I got to be like this was because I was living in a mirror, and it was like, "Oh, you're terrible at this, and it was so much wrong with me that I was just like, all right, I don't know anything, you know, just teach me, you know, I'm walking around with my hands up, I surrender, you know. So I had to cut out everything in order to go back to the basics and have nothing in me. Because obviously I didn't know I was a reflector all the time. I didn't know I was so open to receiving everything, you know. I had no solid foundation in myself at all. So when I'm surrounded in, you know, all that disgusting world that I was stuck in, I had to clear all that off me to realize, oh, okay, this is supposed to be this. And now I can send my consciousness, I can become, if we're Russian nesting dolls, right? I can go up a level if I want. I can go, I can't go down, but I can go up as many as I want. And once I go up, then I can go back down. But, you know, I can send, and it doesn't even need to be a meditation any longer. So when someone, you know, they do something and I'm just like, even though I agree with them, say, you know, someone cuts off Mimi and she'll honk or something, right? This hasn't happened. This is just a complete made up thing. But if, you know, and then I say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. You know, even though I do agree, you know, that person shouldn't have cut you off.
Right.
But your reaction, now you're in a karmic cycle, maybe not with this person, but you're in a karmic cycle in some way, and that is going to now come back at you. And then
that's the power of choice. You have the choice
the
to
willpower.
respond with this same level that they sent you, or a
Be
new
above.
level.
Yeah, be above it.
Right.
And the cool thing, or well, and the cool thing about Jesus is that, you know, he was kind of a bit of a revolutionary in saying that, like, you know, turn the other cheek and be the servant, and, you know, like, throw out this idea of an eye for an eye, because it
Right.
doesn't really get us anywhere. So, like, that's why he's such an important uh figure for us to understand. I mean, I see him as literally the King of Kings, and the Lord of Lords. But, you know, you'll develop your own relationship with him. But, like, that's what he's teaching us. He's teaching us humility. He's teaching us to, like, he's teaching us to, like, how to check ourselves and to realize what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always upholding a standard where, if you were to be in front of God, or you know that God's watching you, like, is your conscience going to be clean? Are you going to be able to stand in front of God and say, like, okay, I'm good?
Right.
I really loved, and I was kind. And even when I really wanted to, like, you know, cut a bitch, I put my knife away.
Right,
Right.
because you know, if you did, or if you honked at that other person, I guarantee you that's not going to be the only aggressive thing you do that day. Because
Absolutely.
that just starts the chain of, like, now you're upset. Now you're going to call somebody and say, "Hey, this guy just cut me off, and I just beeped at him," and then and then it just rolls on.
And then it continues on in that other person's life. You know, they'd be like, "Oh,
Right.
this person's honking at me. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna honk at this person," and it trickles out, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, that was a great follow-up right there, because we do that to people. We throw our nonsense onto them just to throw it off of us, and instead of recognizing, oh, we shouldn't hold on to that in the
Right.
first place.
And yeah, and you're not really throwing it off of yourself. You're just throwing some to them, you know, because you still are holding it. You're
Yeah.
still going to be amped up from honking that horn.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Don't throw shade, throw love.
that's right.
right. And what you were just saying is your conscience going to be clear. See, I see my conscience as God. That's how God speaks to us. Because the way it started with me was, I would say I walk past a piece of trash on the ground, and it's like, you just going to walk by that? You saw that. You know that's there, right? And you know that doesn't
And
belong.
I know you know that's
So
there.
then, like 20 steps later, I'm like, all right, fine. And I walk back. And it was like, at first I'm just like, that's me holding myself accountable. But then I'm like, no, that's not me, because I walked right past it. I'm like, that's my conscience. And then I'm like, oh, that's Jesus talking to me. That's how Jesus talks to us. That's discernment. That is the voice of God. And it's not an actual voice I'm hearing outside of me. If anyone's thinking I'm saying that, it is an internal feeling and a
Yeah.
thought pattern that I have, like that, an internal dialogue, as it is called in the psychiatry field, is we have this internal dialogue, and that is not with ourselves, that is with our God selves, with our higher selves, with our
Yes.
true selves. However, people want to determine that is God, that is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is our God self, higher self, true self. And Jesus Christ puts on the mask of Todd Armstrong, Jeremy Malcolm,
Yeah.
Mama Mimi.
I remember. I'm gonna rewind back to being checked. I wanna just let everybody know, like, I remember the first few times I was checked. I'm not used to being checked, and I remember hearing in my head, like, when I would walk away and go reflect, because the first couple times were a shocker. I was not expecting to be checked. I remember walking away and thinking and hearing in my mind, "He's right, and I'm like, man, he is right. And I'm not going to tell him that, and he's not going to be right every time. I just tried to justify it. He's not going to be right every time, but if you're telling me he's right this time, okay.
Yeah,
But I do remember hearing, he's right, and I was telling him, like, it was like this Aunt Jemima type voice telling me, he's right, like, you better listen to me.
Yeah, and we've gone through some battles, but I know that neither of us would do it any differently, because we're at the place where we are now, that we have such an open, honest line of communication. We both know where we stand on everything. There's no hidden nonsense in there. There's no surprise. Maybe there might be surprise in the future,
Yeah.
whatever. But you know, everything that we've been through, we are on such solid ground
Right.
that there's, you know, no matter nothing's coming in between us. You can't slide a sheet of paper through this pyramid, you know.
I mean, I was very much not used to, I was very much used to bottling up. Like if somebody was doing something to me that I didn't like or saying something to me that I didn't like, I was very used to not telling them that and just shoving it down and waiting until I exploded. And then when I exploded, people are like, where is this coming from? She's nutso. And it's like, no, I've just been holding on to all these little things that piled up into this big thing because I didn't just open my mouth and talk to you.
Well, and I'll say what makes it worse is that I feel everybody's thoughts and emotions. I'm so telepathic, and it, you know, people want to be psychic, and it's a blessing and a curse because
Yes.
I know so much more than I ever should, and I don't want to, so I don't talk about these things often, like the specifics of things. But when, you know, she, as she's saying, she would swallow it down and say nothing's wrong, you know, put on that brave
I'm fine.
face.
I'm fine.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you're not. And then then
Yes,
we
I am.
fight. Then we fight because I'm like, no, I feel that you're not. And she's like, yeah, but I'm fine. And I'm like, she's like, I've, you know, but in her mind, she's saying, you know, I've
Yeah.
dealt with life this way for a long time. I'm fine. But to me, I'm like, no, I know what your fine is, and that is not fine. Get that shit out of here because I feel it and I don't want to feel it. And you lying about it, saying you're not feeling it, is making it even worse now. So, you know,
Right.
we had to get through that nonsense to get to what was actually there. And but we're at a point now where, you know, as she's saying so clearly, her third chakra is not blocked any longer.
Well, the fear that was there was the fear of letting you know how I feel, because how are
Right.
you going to react? So in my mind, I'm going through all the possibilities of how he's going to react if I just say, I didn't like that you said that, or I didn't like that you did that, or, you know, anything. So there was
I
always a fear there because of past experiences of like when I did speak up.
Yeah, like I totally resonate with that, Mimi. I'm very much was the same in my previous relationship. I bottled everything down and I tried to always keep it together. You know, it's just like you when you grow up and you grow up in a family where things are like super chaotic all the time. You kind of start to learn to just be like, okay, I need to keep everyone together, so I
Oh, not
can't
me.
be like the instigator. I can't cause conflict. I always have to diffuse, and that means
Yes.
I have to put my own emotions. I have to sacrifice my own emotions.
Yes. Have to make everyone else
Um,
happy.
exactly. And
Hmm.
it's just, you know, I know so many other people resonate with this. It's just like if you are holding in your truth and you're not allowing it to come out, that's literally just gonna fester and fester inside of you and cause like so many problems that you don't want. It
Right.
may not be right away, but the long-term effects of like holding all of your emotions in, man,
It's
don't do
heavy
it.
shit. You can gain a lot of weight from doing
It is
that.
very heavy. I did learn it the more I let out, you know, I did lose weight. I did do things like I was relieving these extra pressures.
Yeah. See, my family was super chaotic, as you were saying, but none of us tried holding the peace, keeping it together. It was like, no, how can we push this apart? You know, but they all now pretend that they love each other, but it's like putting tape, you know, clear tape over like this wonderful vase that's like super expensive and super beautiful, and it's like tape, tape, and it's like that's not love. You
Yeah.
don't treat someone like that if you love them. And I mean, it is what it is right now, but it's way better than it was, and it'll get better in the future. But most people think that that's love, and because that's all that they ever felt. So when I have these experiences that make me feel love, I'm like, no, no, that's not love. And they're like, what do you mean? I've had this my entire life. I'm 65 years old. Of course this is love. And it's like, you've never experienced love if you think that is love. And then, you know, it's, but there's no resonance there. They don't, they can't understand the love of God if you've never felt the love of God. It's not something you can explain.
You just can't explain it. That's such a good way to put it. Like it's like the moment that when you experience the love of God and you experience that redeeming love of God, meaning it's like a love that literally just like it washes all your guilt, all your
Mhm.
shame, every bad and terrible thing that you thought about yourself cannot compare to this love. It cannot be held up to it because the love is so unconditional. It is so otherworldly. Like I remember when I had this awakening even just recently, like and coming back to relationship with God, like I was crying every day nonstop, just crying and crying and crying because
This was
it's just
before or just right when it happened?
this was like right when it happened, maybe about like 5 to 6 days straight. I was just crying. And every time I would think about God's love for me, because it comes like it's like something, it's just not, you can't explain it physically. It's not like a love that you receive from another human being.
Mm.
It is truly a love that transcends all things. And it is the ultimate goal. Truly, it is the ultimate goal to reach a state where you are this love,
Mhm.
that you can be this love for other people.
Mhm.
And you really don't get it. Like you really are not going to have the discernment and the ability to really um see the point, see the mark, or see like the bullseye of the goal unless you are in relationship with the goal itself.
Oh, I
Um
love that.
and I just want people, I just want people to focus on that because as psychics, as prophetic people, like or as as shamanic people, we can go into other realms. We can go into all these different realms, and that's really useful, especially when it comes to healing and gaining new
Mm.
perspective and bringing in medicines and all these different things, right? But then we also have a three-dimensional existence that we can't forget about, especially as psychics and spiritual people, because we can't always be living out in there, because then who's living in here?
Mhm.
And the whole point of us even being on this planet
Right.
is for us to attain this this philosopher's stone, like this elixir. Everyone thinks that it's this like super, like it's like you get superpowers and you're like all powerful and like that's it's like no, you have to become the meekest of the meek, the most humblest of the most of the humblest. You have to literally become nothing. That's the whole point of being on earth, is for you to realize that when you are able to let go of everything and become absolutely nothing, then God makes you everything. God
Mhm.
uplifts you to the highest stature. This is how this works. But our ego is always telling us different.
Mm.
It's always saying, "Oh, you need to do this. You need to go higher. you need to, be like, you need to have this type of power to be, to be everything. You need to have money and like riches and all these different things to be everything." And it's like that's just a complete inversion of the truth. The
Mhm.
truth is like the more that you are able to put yourself to the more that you're able to be a servant, you know to serve other people, the more you're going to understand who God is. Like Jesus, he washed the feet of his disciples.
Right.
Okay, like that's just not normal. Okay, back in that day, if you had disciples, like disciples were washing your feet every day. They were getting you stuff. Like you were the guru. Okay, like everything was being done for you. Jesus flipped that and he said, like, nah, I'm gonna wash your feet because I want to show you who God really is. God is willing to come down into the filthiest of the filthiest, the poorest of the poor. Like literally, he came in the form of a human being, Jesus Christ, in a manger in the like worst part of town, in like the most shittiest place.
Mhm.
He wasn't like a king or like something so lavish. Like he literally came into the world and went right into the darkest of the dark, because that's where love, really transforms. That's
Mhm.
where it transmutes. And we can't be focusing on so much on like our ego and what it wants us to, what it wants, like, oh, you need to become this and that and this and that's like, no, just focus on serving other people. you know, and you'll start to understand the true initiation, the highest of the truth. It's so simple and
It
yet
is.
so hard to do.
It is because we are in these human bodies, and it is a battle. The human body is a part of the living matrix that exists. As Jesus said, we aren't of this place, we are in this place. So we are in we have the odds stacked against us from the start, that just coming here, we are therefore pitting ourselves against ourselves. Uh, there's really no other way to say it other than we are born sinners,
Yes.
because we are born to feed this body, because this body only has a certain amount of time. We have to love this body, or not love this body. We have to feed this body. We have to do what it needs, and its body controls us. And there's scarcity, and we're gonna die, and oh my God, what is that, and where do we go from here? And there's so many different questions come to mind uh, when when we don't know what we are, when we don't know where we are, when we don't know why we are. It's so very easy to get trapped in the premise that this earth, these things, these distractions, this is what it's all about. It's to have sex with everyone and everything, that I can. It's, feed me all these disgusting foods. Come on, fill me up, shoot me up, get me that new heroin, give me that jab, let's go. I need to hit a Jay-Z concert. Let's go. I mean, it's just so easy to be like, oh, everyone else is doing it, and to wake up and to walk not only in the face of adversity, but to have everyone part so that you can walk right through the way Jesus has done for me. Because you and I are talking about our psychic abilities, and I know other people who are super into Jesus and are psychic, but a lot of people, when they hear Jesus, uh, and when separately they hear psychic, they don't think the two relate. In that, nobody psychic ever believes in Jesus. Why would, that's a dumbass thing. They're psychic, they can see the truth. And it's like, yeah, they can only see a little bit of the truth if they don't see it's Jesus. And it's not to put anybody down, that everybody finds Jesus in their own way and everyone's on their own path. So what I'm saying here is that I was completely against using Jesus, even when I was still listening to the music praising Jesus. I was against saying the words myself because I thought I was God. So I'll explain it this way. I have a client, and we were talking yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was, and he was saying something about having to clear out when you're doing meditations and different things. And he was giving me his little rundown of a little clearing that he does. And I'm like, yeah, I hear people do clearings, and they do these little love prayers and all these different things. And I said, I don't do that ever, because I only work with Jesus. I'm exclusive with Jesus to the point that nothing else can or would or even would try to come through. And I am so psychic, ridiculously powerful, to the point that it really freaks me out all the time, and it makes me uncomfortable with the things that happen. And it's all through my further belief in Jesus. The more I believe in Jesus, the more I give myself over to Jesus, the more these things happen. I become super powerful. I know these wild, wacky things. I mean, there's just endless amounts of things I could say, that it's just all because of Jesus. So I don't have to do, I don't have to say, call in my angels. I don't have to say, please God protect me. It's like, okay, let's just meditate, because all day long, all I'm doing is having Jesus around me for 2 years now almost, that all the music I listen to, all the way that I speak. Now obviously I still curse, and I'm not completely pure, obviously.
None of us are.
It's super hard to, but
Yeah.
I'm not inviting anything else in, and Jesus has chased away everything to the point where they don't even want to come in, because now I have powers that, if a entity wants to try to mess with me, I'll say this, I'll give you, maybe you don't do this, and maybe this will help you because this helped me, that I used to chase things away externally. I would try to kill them. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull them in me, and I'm going to make them submit to Jesus in me. And I started doing that, and nothing's ever come close. They leave me alone. I don't get messed with at all any longer, because I will pull them in and I'll clean them, and then I'll send them to heaven, and then they will be no more on this realm.
That is amazing. That just like lit a light bulb in my head, because I've been
Baptize them.
that's so that I mean that's transmutation right there. Like that's being a real alchemist is being able to like to do that.
Send them through the car wash.
Demons. Yeah.
Yeah. I put them. I literally sometimes
Yes.
it looks like a washing machine, and I'll suck them in, and it'll be like spinning around, and then they'll be like, oh my god! Like the other night I did it, and I can do it if I look at certain pictures of. I was looking at mountains that look like people, and I could connect with the energy that was there, and it led me to understand that those that sell themselves to the devil, right, they're bound to earth. Their souls don't get to go to heaven. And we call these apparitions, we call them ghosts, and we say, they're all here, and there's different things, but for the most part they're bound here. And what I'm able to do is, like when I said I was looking at those pictures, is I was able to free them by talking to them and telling them, oh, accept Jesus Christ and see what happens. And I started doing it, and one of them started going up to heaven, and they were just like, oh my God, you can do that? They're like, gee, like we've been here this whole time, and that's all we had to do was accept Jesus as Lord and Savior. So I hear the symphony going on in my mind of these great chorus singers like Jesus, like it's like the most profound church music of love and Christ ever happening just right inside my mind as I'm just telling them, like,
it is that easy.
Just accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Just try it out. Say it a few times, and the more you feel it, the more you believe it, then you're going to see. And it's usually about the third time they do it, is they're like, I accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and then like more they believe it more, and they do it again, and then the third time they start ascending, and they're like, oh my God, it's real, it's a real thing. And then they start like telling their friends, like, just do it, and they all start ascending, and it's like, it's so awesome. And that's how I usually just get everything away from me, by just sending it to heaven.
That is so cool. Yeah, send it home to source.
Yeah, that's right.
Send it home to source. That's amazing. I'm actually going to meditate on that a lot, because my path brings me out in the forest a lot. And I bring my drum, and I'll just kind of check in with all the beings there and see, like, what's going on. But now I go out there, and I tell them about Jesus Christ. I tell the trees about Jesus Christ, and I tell the waters about Jesus Christ. And when I do, they come alive. It really changes everything. It really changes them.
Wow.
And it's funny, because now seeing that, I kind of see a little bit of what you're saying and what I'm doing. And so that kind of was a confirmation for me that I'm actually doing something, because I'm like, okay, what am I really doing here? What's going on? Like, I can, like, when I'm singing praises to God, and I'm drumming, and I'm chanting, and I'm calling in the Holy Spirit to come in, then the Holy Spirit starts to appear everywhere in nature, and it starts to like come into the trees and come into the waters, and the spirits of nature start to change. They start to purify. they start to come back into love and back into this energy. So thank you for that. That actually kind of clicked for me now, what's going on.
Well, I'm glad that, yeah, because what you just said, clearing that, you're clearing anything that's near you, you're clearing all that yuck off. And even if they're not accepting it, they're at least leaving. They're like, okay, that's not safe to be here any longer. Like, come on, guys, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah.
This is amazing. So I got another thing for you that you might like. So, holy water, I have learned, is works the way, purifying water is. It works in two ways. Well, I mean, it works in one way, but it does two different things. So the water is so pure that those who are in the mode of healing, when they touch it, it heals them like automatically. And those that are in those that are sinning get burned by it, and it just eats them alive. It's like rubbing alcohol in a open wound, is what holy water really is.
What's that movie? The Exorcist? Like when they sprinkle her with holy water, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
And she like burns up.
Yeah, something to that effect. Yeah, because so if we look at time, and that time doesn't move in a linear fashion, that everything's happening now, that if we look at, instead of going this way, it's going straight up and down, that every moment is now, that everything that is, so when you're pouring that rubbing alcohol into the wound, that it's burning forever. So if you are that thing that's burning, then you're burning eternally. You never, because you're always in the now moment. So you're burning eternally. But when you're healing, the way you, I, and Mimi have been doing, when you feel that water, it's so healing. So it can be both, to me and my ego see it in two different ways. It burned the fuck out of my ego, but to me, it purified me and made me so perfect.
Wow. That what you're saying right now is kind of bringing up this idea, this biblical idea, that there's the love of God and then there's the wrath of God. And to those who love God, the love of God is going to be this uplifting, otherworldly, healing experience. But for those who don't like God, it's going to be like they're gonna feel like that it's wrath, like it's crazy, like it's anger, fire, brimstone, and all this stuff. But it's just like that perspective, and it's really, I guess it's really about love at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
are you aligned with the truth? Are you aligned with love? Because when you are, nothing can hurt you. Like literally nothing can hurt you. Yeah.
So that also brings me to the Bible, where they mention God. If you look at God, that you'll die, and that's because He'll suck your consciousness back in because you're not pure enough. You can't look at, you can't get too close to Him, because otherwise you'll cease to exist. He'll just absorb you. He's just, that type of magnetism.
The only thing I never believed in throughout all of the Catholic school training was the wrath of God, because I always thought to myself, what God is? My God isn't vengeful or evil or mean. I like, what God are you talking about? Because that's not my God.
Right. When people mention the
my God
fear
is
of
just
God,
love and just love.
Right. The fear of God. I mentioned in another episode not too long ago that, I don't relate to that. I relate to, I understand that you're saying you're so afraid of what God would do to you if you did wrong, that you don't want to do wrong. But to me, it's, I want to feel so right about doing what's right that I want to do what's right. It has nothing to do with consequence. I've been to prison. I've been a drug addict for 10 years. I've been all these different things, and I never did anything out of the fear of a consequence. That just isn't me. I don't have fear of consequence. But what I do have is the love of feeling good and feeling love. As I was saying earlier, with that, when that injury happened, I was in a state of bliss, that mushroom state that that gives you that bliss for about 10 minutes. I was in that for 36 straight hours. And then for 10 days straight, I was in, another 8.5 days after that, I was in a lesser version of bliss, but still bliss nonetheless. For 10 straight days, I was in bliss after this occurrence. So,
Wow.
I have no fear of God at all. I mean, that was the most loving thing. I don't know if anyone could, I'm sure people have felt that in all types of ways, but to me, that was just the best 10 days of my life. And it was just the love of God that I felt was what just had me on this high.
Yeah.
People really thought I was high the entire time. One guy delivered to, so I worked on like a Saturday, and he saw me, and then I didn't see him again for like 3 weeks. He goes, "Man, I thought you got fired." I was like, "Well," he's like, "You look so high that day." I was like, "Oh no, bro, I wasn't high." He's like, "No, that's not what happened. Like we haven't seen each other, but no, I've been at work every single day. I was not high."
That's amazing. Yeah, you really do get to experience those states. I mean, not all the time, but like that's
Right.
definitely part of it. And yeah, it's just like it gives you also the opportunity to experience organic humanity, because um when you have this when you come into the presence of God through Jesus Christ, everything that's inorganic is going to be pulled away from you. That was one of the biggest things that happened to me. And a lot of people who are in the new age and follow these like false light timelines, a lot of it is heading towards like transhumanist timelines
Mm.
where you are no longer organic. And that was one of the biggest things I realized, that Jesus is his energy, it stabilizes the organic timeline. And when you call on him, anything that's inorganic, like anything that resonates within your soul to these transhumanist timelines or inorganic timelines, will be completely removed from you. Like you'll be
Mm.
completely unplugged from it. That was like my personal experience with him. Like that was the first thing that happened. Like literally, um, I had like a bit of a psychedelic experience when I called in Jesus, where I saw all of these AI machines and like all these cords hooked up to me, literally being pulled out by like the thousands, like all, you name it, like different types of like robots and machines, and like these like uh chips and all this stuff is literally just being pulled out. And then I like, through a guidance of a friend, I started understanding that like, yeah, like a lot of us are resonating with this transhumanist timeline, because we're not aligning ourselves with God. We're not actually trying to understand, like, we're not in a relationship with God, so we're not in a relationship with our organic timeline, with our organic self, free from any type of like um enhancements and all this stuff. It's like, it's not going to enhance you, it's just going to like take away your soul. And without that, you're not any better than your smartphone. Like you're
Yeah.
just machine.
Well, that's where we have the Greys, the Draco reptilians. That's where they look like that. They have to hide underground because the sun is too much for them. The sun's a representation of organic life, and that's
Exactly.
why Bill Gates wants to block it out. It all works hand in hand. That they okay. Well, so let's uh, before we get into that, I want to hear about this. What happened with you? These things being pulled out of you. So, are you saying you had implants in you, and you were in meditation? You were undoing these things. So, is this from like
Sounds familiar.
is this from? Yeah, I have implants all in me. I have markings. I don't show them, but I could. That there's these little red dots that they extend out of my body. Yeah. So you're shaking your head yes for the audio only.
It's so basically the way that I see them is, if anyone's watched The Matrix,
Hmm.
those robots that pursue them, like those like yeah, again, there's a one scene where they're like trying to run away from these robots. They look like this, and this is like what these implants look like. what I feel like demonic forces look like. It's very inorganic. It's very like artificial. Because you got to think of it this way: like when Satan was cast out of heaven, he lost his connection to God due to his own ignorance, and so he lost his connection to his own creative ability. Meaning he can't create anything. He has to artificially create things in order for anything to happen. So that's why all these timelines that exist, all these artificial timelines exist because of that fact. Because there is like the opposition to God is completely cut off from their creative source. So they have to basically, it's kind of sad. It's basically Satan is trying to he's just trying to copy God's creation and then inverting it. And it's just sad, you know. That's the way I see it now.
Yeah, it's mimicry, and
it's
you know,
mimicry.
and when I was saying the Greys and the reptilians, it's because a lot of people see that they're future humans, and yeah, on the transhumanist line, that
Yes,
you want to get chipped, that's what you're going to look like, because
exactly.
you're going to live for 500 years, and you're going to end up being a blob of nothingness because you have no connection to source.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what was this process that you went through? So tell us about this process that happened.
So I started, this is just when I started hearing the call of, I started hearing Jesus kind of starting to call out to me, and I was really uncomfortable, obviously, and I had a lot of resistance.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 29.
29. So when did this calling occur? Last year, you said?
No, this happened like 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
nice.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is really recent. This like
Okay.
the amount of change that has happened in 2 weeks in my life is undescribable.
I
But yeah,
relate.
it happened so fast. But basically, yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I was feeling all of this. You know, I don't know if you know who Quantum Cassie is, but
I heard of her through Kara saying she was going to have her, but I haven't heard of her other than that today. So
she is a lovely human being, and she had her Christ awakening, and I truly believe that Christ used her to throw a nuke in the inorganic timelines. To be honest with
I
you,
got to speak to her as well.
oh yeah, you really do. She did, you know, like her Christ awakening was really intense, and it kind of sent out that whole wave to a whole bunch of people, including myself, and it woke up so many people. It just like slapped us across the face, and we're like, oh fuck, demons. So yeah, I was feeling the call, and I started hearing a church song that I used to sing a lot. It's basically an invocation of the Holy Spirit, and I started singing it. And as I was singing it, then the psychedelic trip happened, where like I literally kind of left my body a bit, and I could feel the Holy Spirit actually come down, and I could just see Jesus taking all these cords and literally just ripping it out of my body. And it went on for a long time. There was a lot of shit that was being pulled out, a lot. And I was just there watching myself, like my own body being like purged of like all of this technology, all this AI shit, all these demons, all this different stuff. And it
So
was
this was
intense.
during a psychedelic trip?
No, I didn't take anything.
Okay.
Well,
So this is a meditation then?
this was a meditation. I did take well, that's not true. I did smoke a little bit of weed, but
That's fine.
I've been smoking weed like forever. So like that's not a normal thing, you know. I mean, I don't smoke weed anymore, you know. That's another thing with Jesus. So just like, hey, that's gone. I don't even want to do that anymore. But not say that's bad. Like people do what you will. It's just for me, I was abusing it, and so it wasn't working out for me. But anyways, I also had taken an oil that one of my friends has made. He's really really amazing mystic, and the way that he works with oils and connects them to like, star systems and different stars, it's just phenomenal. So I took an oil that's connected to the Sirius system, and I anointed my third eye and my heart earlier that day. And I really think that also had a huge part in bringing in this discernment, because the whole intention of that oil was to bring in that discernment. And that oil, he specifically used frankincense, myrrh, and gold to represent the three offerings that the three wise men brought to Jesus Christ when he was born. So there was a huge connection there for sure. All of that lined up on that day. But yeah, it was just crazy, just like a out of body experience. All of a sudden, just seeing all these things being pulled out, and then knowing, like the knowing immediately comes, like you said, like you just know. It's like, fuck, these are demons. Wow, fuck, this is oh my God, Jesus is right here. Like, this is actually happening. This is crazy. And I just went on and on and on. And as they were being pulled out, I was just understanding more and more about the transhumanist timeline. It was almost like I was seeing my future self in this timeline telling me about it, and telling me like what it's like what demons are, what all these different things are. And then it was gone, and then I became organic, and I felt organic. And that's why I call myself an organic timeline keeper, because I refuse to go down that line. And this is where we're headed right now. Like, this is what's happening right now in our history. People are being given the choice to decide which timeline they want to be on. You can either be on the inorganic timeline, the transhumanist timeline, and go along with what the government's telling you and what all these pharmaceutical companies are pushing down your throat. You can go along and do that, or you can choose the organic timeline and continue on the legacy that God has created in us, which is 10 times better, by the way. Just gonna tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was experiencing for a little while, it was a couple months, where I felt that I was shifting in between an inorganic timeline to an organic timeline. Like I tell Mimi sometimes, like after maybe having a fire, or maybe just after a meditation, I would just walk outside and look around and feel the atmosphere and look at the trees and be like, this is fake. Like, I can feel the fakeness. Like, do you remember when I was saying that? It was like a couple weeks where I was like, I could feel that I was going from an inorganic to an organic world, different days. Not that I could feel the shift happening, but I could just feel when I was in a fake world. And those timelines, those options have left me, high and dry at the altar. I'm just in organic timelines now.
Inorganic Buddha, organic family photo back up on the wall.
Yeah. We have a big Buddha. So
we have
I
a mystery in our house that happened.
This huge Buddha poster, and it was just switched out for another.
So I had a family tree type thing up on the wall, and then when he moved in, we switched it out with the Buddha picture, just matched better, whatever. And then one day we came in and it was switched back to the.
It was like 3 days
to
before
the family
Easter.
tree, and I thought, okay, well maybe like the kids did it. Maybe somebody's like.
Yeah, I thought someone was
low
fucking with
key
me.
mad that like he moved in, or like I don't know, could be anything. So I asked everybody, like, did you touch it? And nobody touched it.
Yeah, and and our daughters were talking to each other like, did you change?
Yeah,
it?
they
And
thought we were messing with them.
Yeah, they thought that like one of them did, and that they're asking each other in private, and they're like, "Did you do it?" They're like, "No, I thought you did it."
And I was saying that to you. I'm like, "Did you do that?
Yeah,
did you do that?"
And I still don't believe Mimi that I think she did it.
I really didn't do it.
Yeah,
I really didn't do it.
And this was
literally
If I did do it, I wouldn't be able to hold it in this long.
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah, since then I've done it a bunch of times, but that one was significant, and that we both left work at the same exact time, which never happened. We both went through this crazy storm of fog. So many different synchronicities happened that day. So many different Mandela effects. I couldn't run through them all. I mean, it was so crazy. But bottom line is, it was a few days before Easter, and I got told from Jesus, I think it was that night, that he was like, I switched that. Because what they say.
Buddha's not for you.
No, he didn't say
No?
Buddha's not. No, he said, what's it? No idols in the house on Easter, right? So that's I come home and the Buddha and the way that I found out it was taken down is I had like this long ass day at work. It was like 13 hours, and I walk in from out on the porch, and I'm going to get a shower because I have to, go to sleep to wake up for work the next day. And I walk by, and I don't see the Buddha poster, and I look, I'm like, that's, and I'm like, oh, Mimi, her and I had fought the day before, and I'm like, oh, she took down my fucking poster, and I'm like, where is the poster?
It really wasn't me, I swear. I
That's
wouldn't be able to hold it in this long if it was me, because I'm not a liar. I can't.
It was super,
Wow.
but
That's a
yeah,
miracle.
the
It was
timeline
completely
switching.
switched out. Like the other one
Yeah.
was like in the garage. Like it was
Yeah, it was hidden.
completely
It was hidden in the garage.
switched out.
I mean,
Wow.
it's a big poster too. That only I'm the only one that's tall enough to
Yeah, it's a big
put it
canvas.
there and take it down. And the only chair there was this weak ass computer chair that you weren't going to stand on. Yeah,
That's
and
what he
there
said.
was
Did
a
you do this? I
computer
was
and
like,
a desk in front of it. I mean, it would have been a whole process for someone to be able to do it.
Yeah,
Only I could reach it, and I didn't do it. Like I swear on anything that.
I would have had to climb on furniture because I'm pretty
Yeah.
short.
See, these are the lengths that Jesus will go to love you.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
literally like he just like
Cause you to.
'Cause he knows-
Yeah, he's intense. Okay, he really loves you.
Yeah,
he
he-
really does.
he knows how observant I am and how I pay attention to everything, and he's like, nah, he can handle it.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
I love that.
let's let them jump 8 million timelines all in one night and see what happens.
That's so funny too. You mentioned about the idols because the moment that I had this awakening, that was the first thing that came through real clear to me. God saying like, "Get rid of all your idols," and I was just like, "Why?" They're like, He's like, "Just get rid of them. I'm not even going to answer that question. You already know why. Just get out of it." God is a jealous God, and not in a bad way. Like that's just who He is. Like He wants us to focus on Him because He's number one, all things. And number two, like he's love. He's the highest thing. Everything else is literally a distraction when you're on this path.
He wants
Like,
us to
yeah,
have the truth.
exactly. Focus. It's like there's one thing to focus on, not 100 million different things to focus on. When you can get it all in source. Source is the source of all of these things anyway.
Right.
And I think like that's what we're kind of moving into. Like maybe at one point in our human history, that was the way that we related to God through these various, what do I call them, like fractals or whatever you want to say. But because what Jesus did, we don't need that anymore. It's not something that we need to get to God anymore. That's not a barrier. Like we can go right to the source now. And
Yeah.
this has been, again, this whole narrative of our human history, our human story is getting us back to this point where we can have a direct personal relationship with our Creator. That has been very difficult for us for a very long time, but because of what Jesus did, he literally opened up a straight portal to God. Like this is the high magic that Jesus did when he was here. Okay, he was like, enough of this. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to pay the freaking ransom. I'm going to take the keys of hell from Satan, and I'm going to freaking like just burn this shit to the ground. And now we have a direct access. It seems crazy, but
Oh yeah. I love your analogy of stealing the keys from hell. So
oh my God, yes.
so this is amazing because when I wasn't, before I had that injury, but last year, I was still into Jesus, listening to and researching about and all that. I had this channeling that explained to me just what Jesus was how his sacrifice was different, and I learned about sacrifice. And I would ask you to, whenever you get a chance, to go on my website, emmanuelkingman.com, go to the blog section and read What is Sacrifice,
Okay.
which I'll go over that in a second. But the part I want to get to first is, because it's so wonderful, is that so Jesus is on that cross, he's hung, right, on the cross. And what they do, and this is what they do to children, is they torture the children, right? Or not just children, but adults as well. They torture them to the point that the victim is then asking for death, for sweet release. They're asking for it. And Jesus never gave them permission. He never asked. He never, when they're killing him, he just let them. So
Yes.
so what happens is if they kill an unwilling participant, he steals the keys. It's like,
Yes.
because I'm still alive. I didn't ask for this. So I get to go down there alive, and now I can take what's mine. I had to go down to that place to now I can go back up. And then he came back up. But on my website, I also have, here's another mind-blowing part about sacrifice, because sacrifice started off as you sacrifice a lamb and you let one run free. So what you do is you treat one lamb as the best lamb ever, you give it special treatment, and then you go and kill it and offer it to God. You put all of your goodness onto this one and you kill it, give it to God. Then the other one you treat, I don't want to say treat badly, but the runt, it's usually the one that's like the worst one, is you let that one run free, but you're passing your negative energies onto these two lambs, and that's how the sacrifice, that's what sacrifice is for. You're clearing your energies.
Right.
So with Jesus being on the cross, this is how Jesus takes our sin from us. Now this is fucking mind-blowing when I channeled this information, that the reason why Jesus can die for our sins on the cross is because time isn't linear, which means Jesus is on the cross right now, and we can send him our negative energy. We can send him that right now. And I connected with him while he was on the cross over the course of 3 days, 3 straight days that I connected with him. I saw him on the cross. We were in communication so intensely, and he's just telling me all of this, like, time doesn't work linear. I'm not asking for death. I am accepting your sin now. This is how I am dying for your sins, because whenever you are, wherever you are, you can send me your sin now, and I will take it from you, and I'll take it to the grave. Yeah.
That is wow.
There's no words for that.
It makes so much sense though.
And nobody ever looks at it like that.
It does make sense, because when you tell people of a Jesus of, long ago that accepted other people's sins, you don't think it's possible for you in this moment, because that was then and this is now. So that is that's some pretty big nugget there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
I mean, that's just, but this is what I'm saying, like, and this was the plan from the beginning, even before his incarnation. This was the whole plan. And this is what's so funny. This is why I love Jesus, because he's so clever. He's actually such a clever person. Such an amazing strategist, like the master strategist. I've said this before, but like, yeah, like my favorite image of him that I have is just when he did die, because he was an innocent lamb, because he didn't, like you said, because he didn't ask for death. When he died, like, he ascended and he was just laughing, because it's just so funny, because it's like him and God were in on it the whole time. They were just like, yo, like, we did it.
Yeah,
for sure. And read in the book of Enoch, Enoch gets taken to the place right before time starts, when all of creation is all set and nothing's in motion yet, and he's there in heaven, and he sees what he calls the Ancient One, or the Lord of Spirits, which I've come to find out is the wisest part of each of us collectively makes up this being that we call, that is embodied, the Ancient One, the most wise. The eldest is the wisest is the eldest. That's those types of sayings. That version. So there's a wise piece of us, all of us, that make up that version. And that version, the most wise version, chose Jesus as the Son of Man before time ever started, didn't name him, but talks about the Son of Man in so many different ways. And in so many words, says that Jesus, his name will set. Okay, oh, I keep saying Jesus, but it always says the Son of Man or my elect one or my righteous one. That's always the way it's written because he's not named at that time. So it says his name will save everybody who claims it. And this is so Enoch is the great grandfather of Noah, from the flood. So this is thousands of years before Jesus.
Yeah.
And this is talking about everything that's in the New Testament. Not everything. There's several books in the New Testament that talk a lot about Jesus who are using Enoch's prophecy from thousands of years ago. And it lines up so perfectly in that it's always been the plan. As you just said, it's God, the Ancient One, our wisest versions of ourselves, picked out the best version of us, and then allowed the simulation, the matrix, to run its course, wound it up, let it run its course, and through, through knowing what was going to occur, they're like, all right, let's go do this thing. And here we are now. And Jesus set forth the path for all of us to go back, and not even just go back to source, but to become our own eternal being alongside the Ancient One and Jesus. As they sit on their thrones on the clouds, so will all of us be eternal and become one, equal to, and not in every way, of course not, but equal to those two. We will be our own creators on a as above so below scale. They'll still be above us, but we will be on their playing field at that point. We won't be on human playing fields any longer.
That is amazing. And that's the vision I have for, like, when people say like new earth, like that's what I think it is. Like that's what I see. And even if we look at like Revelations, the book of Revelations, it says that that those who partake in the first resurrection, the second death will have no power over them, and they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign over the earth for 1,000 years. And like this is what we're heading to, exactly what you're saying. It's like we will be with God, we will be with Christ, and Christ will be our king, and will still continue to pave the way. But at this point, we are eternal, and we have, we can sit with him, we can sit by his side, and we can learn from him, and we can be the human, we can be the human template, or the human like the Eden template that we were always meant to be. We can be that again, and we can actually start creating the way that we were supposed to create originally. So it's exciting. Super exciting.
That is beautiful. I do want to ask this one last question before we start to wrap it up here. Are you studied in Tartaria at all?
Tartaria? I actually never heard of it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot. So I'll send you a couple videos. So Tartaria, I'll just do a little brief rundown for you. You've heard of Atlantis, right?
Yes,
So
I have memories of Atlantis.
Okay, so it's probably so Tartaria is I think the real version of Atlantis, that maybe Atlantis was more ancient. Okay, I don't want to say that the real version, the closer version. So I think that there is a civilization that existed not very long ago, and that created a lot of ancient structures, or that we think are ancient structures. Well, there's a lot of things to it. I'll send you over to this one woman's channel, because she talks about, it's different than anyone else that talks about Tartaria, is that Jesus reigned as a physical human king for 1,000 years already. And it was in the 1800s, because this is when Tartaria stuff okay, this is where the deception comes in, is the 1800s. From 1812, there were wars happening all over the world, but they don't call it World War One, even though it should be. Uh,
Mm.
there was wars all in 1812, and then it ended with the Carrington event in 1859. And it's funny because Lucifer's called the flash of lightning, and the Carrington event was a big plasma event where plasma's lightning, and it struck the Earth to the point that it knocked out the power that it would knock out all of our grids today if that same hit. So, I think that somehow Lucifer and his evil I can't even think of the word, evil, like demons or whatever, switched places with Jesus and the saints that were here, because she has videos on the saints and how they were resurrected people, that they're always depicted with halos around their head, and that these were actual people. And she gets to the point where she's like, okay, so I think that Jesus was an actual king here, and that he lived in a place where church and state came together as one, and that there was 1,000-year rule of peace already. The millennial kingdom already existed before. And she says that system is Catholicism. And what more perverted thing is there today than Catholicism? And
Right.
what would Lucifer do? He would pervert the truth. So
Right.
that which is closest to the truth would be the most perverted today. And
That is so funny.
it makes so much sense. So I'll send you this her YouTube page. She has like 5 or 6 videos, and you can look up Tartaria on so many
Anywhere, yeah.
on podcasts all over the place. Tartaria is amazing, mind-blowing stuff. And the way she puts it together, it makes more sense to me than ever before, that if there was a society in which existed, that everything was perfect, and there was this love, and there's all these different things occurring, free energy, and everyone loving each other, that if it was, the Luciferians run it now, that they would not want us to know that Jesus actually lived on the earth and actually ruled as a actual king for 1,000 years. They wouldn't want you to know that, so they would pervert it. They would get rid of all the stuff, and then it just makes so much sense for everything.
That's so interesting. And that's so funny. I actually was thinking about that today. I was thinking about like the Vatican, and I mean, I've always known that like the Vatican is just the center of deception. Yeah, pretty much. And I forget the exact translation, but the word Vatican is like enlightened serpent or something like that.
Really?
It's like something serpent, like something like enlightened or illuminated serpent. And it's like, how much more obvious can this get? You know what I mean?
Well, do you know Quetzalcoatl?
Yes.
Okay, so he's the Antichrist. That I don't know if you've ever heard about the story before Christopher Columbus got here, that there were white people led by Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica who told the native indigenous people, like, oh, there's going to be these white people coming, they're gods, so allow them to do what, and that's how Christopher Columbus took over so easy. And then what happens is, if you look at the Mayas and the Aztec, and they talk about all the sacrifice that was occurring, and then if you go to Vlad the Impaler, is said to be the son of the serpent, and they have all these secret societies, the Brotherhood of the Serpents, the Brotherhood of the Snake, all that stuff links off. And there's this remote viewer, top-notch guy named John Vivanco, and he remote viewed Vlad the Impaler and saw that he was Quetzalcoatl in human form, and he's the son of the dragon. So, it made so much sense. It was like, oh, Quetzalcoatl, is the Antichrist. Like, I got that information. I'm like, how does that really make sense? And then it's like, oh, he came under the guise of peace. He told everyone there was going to be peace, and actually it was a murdering. And then there was all this sacrifice performed in his name, and he lived where the Gulf of Mexico is, because that was Atlantis, and
Right.
it sunk to because of all the evil that was happening there. And there was just so many different things occurring with that. But I mean, it's just, my mind is just mush right now, because it's just, the more
There's
I
so
learn,
much.
it's so crazy.
So much.
Yeah.
It is so crazy, but it actually makes a lot of sense. And it's just it's up to us to start exploring and to be asking for the truth. Like, this is what's really important. If anybody wants to know Christ, you got to ask for the truth. You got to ask for the
Mhm.
whole truth, everything,
No matter what.
because yeah, that's going to be your lifeline, the truth. It's hard, but like, it's harder if you keep running away from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
So
I want to circle back.
go
I
ahead.
want to I want to circle back to. I heard you say that you have Atlantis memories, and I want to
Oh,
circle
yeah.
back to that.
yeah,
I wrote it down. I was like, let's go back.
I had a past life regression, and in that, or no, sorry, quantum hypnosis. I had a quantum hypnosis
Oh,
session,
wow.
and in that session, well, I already had some memories pop up from it prior, and which led me to the session because I wanted to know more. But I had a full picture of what was going on. Where I was staying, I actually didn't stay in the city. I was staying in the outskirts of the city, still close enough for me to see Atlantis. But I was living with my father, who was taking care. You could think of him, he was kind of like a dragon expert. There was a lot of dragons in Atlantis, a lot. um but he was aware of the corruption, and he was aware of what they wanted to do, and they wanted to dragons. Not all dragons are bad. There are actually some dragons that are working for God, and
Mhm.
they are kind of like gatekeepers. They gatekeep for power, and humans wanted to use that power. They wanted to go bypass the dragons, bypass their knowledge, bypass their station, and get right into their power. And this is where this whole thing, again, like, this is all Luciferian stuff. The moment that pride and arrogance and ego starts to seep in, it's so crazy. It ruins everything. So anyways, my father at the time had the full knowledge of this, so he was trying to preserve the legacy of the dragons, but he couldn't keep the dragons. He couldn't take the dragons away from the city. We had to stay close enough, because where the city was, they were using paramidic technology to increase the frequency of the atmosphere. Basically, in that spot where Atlantis was basically like a different dimension. And because of all the technology that was being used, it was raising it to a certain frequency that we were able to communicate with various beings that were from higher frequencies, and they could come down to Earth without exploding, basically. So dragons were part of this, and he was trying to keep that legacy alive, by keeping a family of dragons away from the city, in hopes that we could preserve them. Because at the fall of Atlantis was basically these very evil people who are very high up in Atlantis, summoning very dark things, and they came coming through the veil and destroying pretty much everything. And my last memory was basic, like, there was this armor in Atlantis there was a technology that would connect to your etheric body. So it basically acted as a bridge between your etheric body and your physical body. Once you wore that, you could you could summon different powers. And for me personally, I was training in the temples to utilize the power of Archangel Michael, the blue ray. And that armor basically gave me the ability to call on that ray. And my last memory was just trying to take part in this battle and fight off these beings, but I died. I was like killed. They were extremely powerful. And yeah, it just led to the fall of Atlantis. And yeah, I had to go through this whole thing where like I had all these different karmic ties to these memories and all these emotional ties to these memories, and I had to clear that all out because it was just such a traumatic experience.
It's
But
a
yeah,
pretty cool job for your dad to have, you know, like a
yeah,
dragon expert, you know, that's pretty cool.
it was such a different life, like such a different life. Like people who you know, like Atlantis was just like a different planet. Like it was a completely different thing for the surrounding civilizations. They just like were like it was just nuts, beyond its time. But yeah, those are my memories of it. I don't know how much that aligns with other people's memories, but that was it was it's such a vivid thing. Like it's like if I think about it, it's like I was there, like I'm
Yeah,
there.
I can see
Mm.
what you're seeing. My third eye does that when I talk to people. I can see what they're talking about, what they're saying, and I see it and I understand it in a very new way. Not that I didn't think Atlantis existed, but now what I'm getting is I think the Americas were always Atlantis or Tartaria, you know, in some sense that the Americas were always the promised land, so to speak, for freedoms,
Yes.
and that it got ransacked by this crazy Italian that was flying under the Spanish flag, and he was led there by the Antichrist, Quetzalcoatl. But it's funny how you said your dad is a dragon expert because I'm what you could call a snake charmer now that I'm doing these uh, different kundalini. I'm helping initiate and guide people in my mentorship programs to uh, first awaken their kundalini and then cut off the head of the snake and have them use the kundalini. So I'm a bit of a snake charmer in that when we meditate together, I can shake that snake out of wherever it's at, and then I can have the eagle come down and grab the snake and with its talons just cut the head of the snake off, pull it up and shove it into your mouth of God chakra so that its power is going straight into the back of your head rather than it controlling you.
That is so amazing and cool. I've never heard of that. Like, I mean, if I like that, but as you're telling me, like, it just makes complete sense. Um, yeah, because that's what, like, when I had my Kundalini awakening again, like, it just took over. It
Yeah.
took over everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've cut the head off of it, but I feel like I have.
Yeah, yeah. I just got that. Maybe you were thinking it to yourself and is like, did I cut the head off it? And I was picking up like, yeah, you cut the head off it.
Yeah.
If you know Jesus as well as you do, there's no way that you did it.
I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Mimi did have another question for you.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm going to circle way back to the beginning. Your dad is a pastor, right?
Mhm.
And how, I guess I want to, if you'd had been listening to him tell you that you were going to go to hell, how long did you listen to that for? And then when you finally came out to your father, did his views change on a lot of things?
Yeah, I mean, I had to listen to that pretty much all my childhood into my early teens. So it was pretty detrimental to my sexual development. It was just filled with shame and guilt, and I had a lot of work to do there because it was just like I felt so unsafe of my own sexuality, and it was like always repressing. Um, when I finally came out to my dad, he was surprisingly okay. But he had told me that he just didn't want to know if I was in a relationship. Like, so for Christians, they have this really weird thing where like they're like, okay, like you're gay, that's fine, but if you have sex, it's not okay. So like you're not, like you can't have sex, but you're okay to be gay. So I'm okay with you being gay. Just don't
And he
tell me.
reads the Bible,
Yeah.
which has a lot of that in there. I'm just saying, because when I started reading, I was like, what did I just read? And
Mhm.
it's in there.
Yeah,
And
I
so
actually
your views of Jesus and what you've learned of Jesus, did you ever explain your what you channel about Jesus? Have you ever explained that to your dad and had a conversation about that?
No, if I had ever have a conversation like this with my dad would probably like consider me possessed by demons. That's where
Certifiable.
he's at.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's completely absolved in religion. He's trapped
Mm,
by it and he can't see beyond it.
mm.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I was born into his line, was to break that, because
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah, like he's just trapped by it. And by living my life and by living my truth, I'm giving him the opportunity to break free from that.
Right.
I don't know if he has. I haven't spoken to him in a while. We don't
Where do
really.
you think he would not? Where would he differ with his beliefs in Jesus than yours? Like, what don't you think he would accept?
Well, for one thing, like, it really comes down to my sexuality at the end of the day.
Okay.
Gotcha.
For him, me being gay and me, like, dating or having sex, like, it for him, like, that's like the worst thing ever. He even refused to baptize me, because
Wow.
he thought that he was going to go to hell if he baptized me.
Wow.
So
So,
that's how deep this is, like, in
So
his mind.
can I'm channeling something right now.
yeah.
I'm picking up on, okay, and I was picking up on this earlier when I was kind of talking on it, but I didn't know that this was coming from you necessarily, so I didn't want to say it. But now I'm comfortable in knowing that it's not from you. This is how your father views it, in that he is okay with being gay. The problem he has is anal sex. It's not necessarily two men doing it. It's that the notion of anal sex is unclean,
Right.
and it's an actual thing when you ejaculate into the root chakra, which is the asshole. That's how you get in there. That then uh, unclean thoughts are born from that. So in so demons are born from that. So that's what I'm picking up on, is that that's his issue. It's
That's
not
his
it's
belief.
not gay. It's that he believes that sex should only be used for procreation,
Yeah.
and between a penis and a vagina. So that's I'm very much was getting that earlier, and now it's very, after hearing you say this, it's very clear that that's how or why his views are the way they are. Is that's how he sees it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, that's the way he sees it. I mean, I don't personally see it that way, but in terms of him, like, he if I'm going to be completely honest, I just personally think that he's uncomfortable with his sexuality, and
Yes.
him coming to, like, me incarnating into his line or into his life was, I was a mirror. I was always meant to be a mirror for him. And I think that because he saw what he hated so much about himself in me, that it's that's why he just couldn't accept it, and that's why he's so against it, and that's why he's like always like rejecting it. It's because he's
Mm,
literally just rejecting a part of himself. That's
right.
the
He
way I see
needs.
it.
Yeah. He has those thoughts himself, and he's always run from it rather than face it and look at it and be okay with the thought, even though that's maybe it's not something that he wants to pursue, but he
Right.
hasn't made peace with himself with having those thoughts, and now he's attacking anything that makes him have to face that. By the way, do you know your human design?
Yeah, someone recently told me, or did it for me. I'm a projector.
Okay, I see that. big time. Yeah, because I think projectors are kind of reflectors in their own sense that they are a mirror to some in some sense. So when you were just saying that you were a mirror, that's just what made me want to ask.
Yeah, I mean, and then to answer Mimi's second question about coming out, I eventually started living with him. Sorry, but and at that point I was seeing my partner, and I wasn't coming home too much. I was kind of at that point like pretty much just living with my partner, and I would kept on having to lie to him over and over again. It's like, oh, where are you? I'm with my friend. Where are you? Oh, I'm with my friend. And I'm like, I'm so tired. Like I'm the type of person, like it really frustrates me to lie. It actually like physically very difficult for me to do that.
Right.
So I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I was just like, okay, I want to be honest with you. I'm seeing my boyfriend, and that's where I've been this whole time. And his response was, pack your stuff, get out of my house, don't ask me any questions, just get out.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
He was hurt. I feel that he was hurt by the lies, but it was his worst fear came true as the most hurt. Because he thought that was it, and then as soon as you told him, then
What are the chances he's a manifester?
it's as soon as, well, maybe, but as soon as he opened his closet, his demon was right there, and him opening the closet was you telling him where you were, and it terrified him, and he did not want to see that any longer. It was right in his face then. So I think that if you talk to your dad about the way that you see Jesus now, I don't know. I think that he'd be open to it. I think that he'd surprise you, that you guys would come together a little bit tighter. I'm getting that he would very much like that. So.
Oh, I know he would. I know he would. I know he would love, to talk about Jesus. And I don't mind, to do that either. But it's just like at this point, even before, like I feel like I don't want. I feel like even if you are not a Christian or you don't know Jesus, if you are a Christian, you should be showing the love of Christ.
Right.
Especially if you're a pastor.
Should be setting the example.
You have to represent, you know what I mean? And my dad he never did. And
it goes back to why we don't go to church,
Exactly. And I don't want it to be the reason why he all of a sudden now can accept me or he can talk to me freely. It's like, I want him to approach me because he actually wants to, not because I'm now like, I might be able to be like saved or I'm somehow turned. Like, I don't want to do that because I'm at a point in my life where like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my sexuality. I know where I stand with my sexuality. I'm not going to, I want it to be genuine. I want it to be real. I don't want anyone in my life that's not authentic or genuine about their love, because for me, what's important is that I came to the point where I worked my ass off to love myself because of what he did to me. Like, he's like constantly inflicting all this shame and guilt upon me, and then kicking me out and all this stuff. So it's like I did all that work on myself, and I've reached out to him, and I've done everything I could to repair this relationship, but he couldn't get over that fact. And until he can, I don't want anything to do with it. And that's my way of that's how I'm empowered in myself. Because I
I feel that you're very much at peace, and you have done your share, and now it is on him to, the ball's in his court, so to speak. I feel that.
Exactly.
But I think that, so I think he's going to surprise you, and in one way or another in the near to far future. It's
Yeah.
kind of loose standards
I
there,
think
but I think that your father loves you very much, and I think that you not seeking your human father's approval, but seeking your spiritual father's approval is something that he is going to learn from. Maybe it'll come to him in a dream. Maybe it'll come to him, in his regular human form, and he'll have that thought all by himself. But I think that he'll learn from his son in the way that he never thought imaginable.
I do hope so.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
think you radiate light and you radiate love, and to know you is to know love, and to know
Yeah.
love is to know God, and that's all your dad needs to know.
Jesus comes out of you very fully, my friend.
Oh,
You're so he just glows of like
Yeah.
you
no.
shine.
I don't know what to say. Thank you guys. You guys are so
Yeah, but you
kind.
Yeah, I'm
you're the
tearing up
first
now,
person
too.
I ever said that to, so I can see it.
Oh,
I it actually means the world to me. Um,
Again,
I
I
look at the
wrote that
clock and
down,
I look at the
When
clock and it's 9:22. 22 is like been popping up everywhere for me. So this is like synchronicity right now. Thank
oh
you.
man.
You
And
guys are
that's like
awesome.
2 hours and 22
am
minutes
I
in,
making you
too.
cry?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is a twofer. All right.
Yeah, both of us. Mimi got us.
Oh,
So
you
here's
guys.
what's been happening. The more that I sit on the sidelines of podcasts, I have this little pad of paper, and I'm not realizing what I'm doing until now. And while I'm listening to the interviews, sometimes I just get information that either has or doesn't have anything to do with the interview, and I write it down, and either it comes up or it doesn't. And so I wrote down, to know you is to know love, and to know love is to know God, and that's all his dad needs to know, and all his dad should already know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
that's
should
what he
already
should be
know this.
preaching.
So, Dad,
Thank
if you're
you.
listening, 101, like brush up on it.
Yeah.
Brush up on love.
You guys are like the cutest, like most loving people ever. Like just so
This was
the
my
word I
best
like
show.
is pure innocence, pure childlike wonder, both of you. And I
Oh,
think you both of you bring that out in each other, which is even more awesome, that your partnership helps you helps you keep in contact with your inner child, and in contact with the wonderful like creation that we're part of. So thank you so much, you guys. Like I really
thank
You're
feel like
very
you.
a
welcome.
soul kinship with you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you so much. This was, such a joyous, loving conversation all the way around. We've learned so much about each other. Mimi was very open, and she was more involved in this conversation than she has been in
Yeah, this is
others.
probably the most I've talked in any podcast,
Yeah,
because
so
I'm
you
just
really
very
helped
into
open her
this.
throat chakra.
I'm
Yeah.
honored. Oh my God, I'm so glad. This is so awesome. I love
Yeah.
making these connections, these soul
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what one of my guests told me a month ago or so. He said the closer you get to home, the more you recognize, and that's why synchronicities pop up as much as they do now that we're
Because
getting
you're
closer.
you're going the right way.
Yeah, and now that I've met you, and we have intermixed as well as Mimi. I feel that the Christ connection is getting so close and so strong, and like you said with Quantum Cassie, how she burst open for a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Right before that, I was on Zero with Sam Tripoli about 3 weeks ago. So if your thing happened 2 weeks ago, I was right in that same time period, and my significant event that kicked off was in January. So in order for me to even tell that story a few weeks ago, it took the injury way back when, and to even get to that point, it was all the other things that led up to that, and that's how we know that everything happens for a reason, and that all things work for the good. That I had to go through all my bad experiences to get to where I am today, and to get to
Yeah.
where I'm going to be eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love this.
So yeah, me too. So the way that I like to end my episodes is I like to ask my guests how they like to ground themselves when they're too astral. Some people are stuck in the astral world, so sometimes when they're too astral, or if they're too emotional, like how do you ground yourself? And then also, what is your most favorite relaxing activity, whether it's vegging out on Netflix and ice cream, or whether that your grounding technique might be your most relaxing activity. What is your combination of those two things?
So I'm a very fiery person. My main element is definitely fire. So I do go up into my head a lot because fire rises, heat rises, and I do go up into higher states pretty easily, especially when I'm getting a little passionate. Um,
That's me.
so what I like to do is I like to just be by water. I like to go, especially by a stream or a river, like a water that's moving, and I'll sit right by it and I'll just meditate and breathe in the energy of the water to kind of balance myself back down. Because
Okay.
when I know when I get too fiery, it can get out of control. I'm still working on that. But I am a fiery warrior for God, so I'm learning how to control my power. um, and water for me is a very grounding practice. Breathing in the water energy, it's sitting in meditation by water. That's what really gets me, back into my body. And I would say that like that's one of my best ways to relax is just being in the forest. I'm like a forest creature. I don't know. I just love being in the forest. It immediately relaxes me. I feel like I'm amongst family and friends when I'm in the forest. Um, and and yeah, like I don't really watch much TV. It's hard for me to sit down and then it's just I can't do it. And I need to be out in nature. I need to be like either going for a walk. That really relaxes me.
Say everyone that I ask this question to, I don't think one of them has ever said that they watch TV, that they like playing on their phone, that they like doing anything other than being in nature, meditating, and
Sitting on the ground,
exercising,
better than
eating
that.
healthy.
barefoot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what the answer is, and everybody
Reading.
that is so happy and loving, and it's the first time I cried on the show, but
Whoop, whoop.
yeah, this was.
I bet I'll get that cheering intro from now on.
I almost hit the boo. I almost hit the boo. I didn't do it.
Oh,
Though.
don't.
No, I'm not going to do that. But this
Start the fire.
this is this podcast I'm always experiencing first in, and this was. So I had on a pastor, and we talked about Jesus, and I've talked about Jesus
My
by
pastor.
myself, but
Mhm.
I feel that Mimi's pastor. But I feel outside of Mimi being the
Should
guest.
check out that episode too. You might like it.
Yeah, I think episode 23, Pastor Doug Walker. It's Walking with Jesus.
He's great.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll check it
So,
out.
so you're my first guest who knows Jesus in the way that I know Jesus, and before I think it was Monday, maybe it was over the weekend, is when I first came across the episode that with Kara Mosher, and I listened to it myself on Monday. And before that, I didn't know you existed, and now you're on my
I think
podcast.
it was
and
me that
yes, it
said
was
you need
Mimi.
to listen to this.
Yeah,
We need to have
and
this
now
guy
you-
on.
Thank you, Mimi. You connected
You're welcome.
us.
And I can see why now. For me, I can see why.
Yeah, and you're making me cry.
connection.
It's just so many different things happen. It's happened so quickly,
Yeah.
and
Divine timing. And yeah, the moment that you reached out to me, I heard the Holy Spirit be like, "Yep, you need to talk to him." Like
He's
it's
right,
just,
it
was very like instant.
Yeah.
I love it, and I see why. Like this has been so amazing. Like you've taught me so much. Like my eyes are open to so many. Like there were things that like I kind of understood, but like I feel by talking to you guys, it's like you've kind of filled in the blanks, and now like things are clicking for me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
that
I
makes sense.
love that. I love being able to help people to shed some light on some darkness.
That's super
It's
important,
Yeah, because
so
especially now.
weird that
Especially now.
yeah,
everyone is seeing this as puzzle pieces lately, right? Everybody's seeing that puzzle pieces need to come together to form this big picture.
Yep.
But it's also very weird to have this one puzzle piece of, let's say, like Jesus, and then try to connect it to a puzzle piece that's like Tartaria, you know?
Yeah, right.
And you're like, wait, they actually connect?
yeah, I know.
Like these two pieces go together?
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah, it's a very fun adventure.
It is a wild ride, but
Yeah.
it all connects. It does.
Yeah,
This was definitely one of my favorite episodes.
Mine too.
I'm, whenever
easy.
you want to come back on to kick it, whenever if you have something that you want to promote, whatever, I'm sure that we're going to be in touch outside of the show as well. I feel like I met my brother tonight that it's just been a long time since we've seen each other is all.
Right? Reunited.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love it.
Do you want to tell my audience where they can find you and where they can sign up for your acupuncture and energy therapy?
Absolutely. So you can my booking page is in my bio. My handle for Instagram is Jeremy Heals _. Or you can go to my website, jeremyheals.com. If you're in the Toronto area, I do acupuncture. So you can come, see me personally at my clinic downtown. Or if you want energy healing, I can do that distantly. So if you're living, it doesn't matter where you live, we can work with each other that way as well. If you're interested in coaching, or if you, if you want to get some coaching or some guidance, you can also reach out to me, and we can talk about that too.
Okay, there you go. I will have all the links in the description as well. What kind of coaching do you do? Life coaching and spiritual coaching?
Yeah, I do spiritual coaching, like spiritual awakening or awakening coaching.
Yeah, I call mine a mentorship thing, but apprenticeship coaching, it's all, just
I like to
different.
think of myself like a guide.
Yeah, that's how I put it as well. Yeah, I'm not really, but I do like the term coach because I was a softball coach, basketball coach for my daughter, and it is very much like I tell my clients, I'm like, hey, at the beginning, I'm like, you can't get mad at me when I'm on your ass. I'm going to
Right.
have to ride you because that's the only way to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll have all the links in the description. I want to thank you a million times. Mimi just had to step out here, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. And, it goes for Mimi as well. We're so honored to have you. When two or more gather, the Holy Spirit is very present. And I feel that this episode is going to be a powerful one. I've been garnering, I've been moving in the right direction, as we all have. And I feel when this episode will probably come out in about 3 weeks or so. And it's going to be a powerful one. I can feel it. I can feel it.
I feel that too. The spirit is going to be working overtime. I love it. And
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me on.
course.
Honestly, it's an honor just to be here. And like, I never know what I'm gonna say on these things. Like, I'm not an expert or anything, but it's just like,
Well, you're an expert on you, and my show is all about you.
exactly. And just your ability to hold space for me, I really appreciate that. It made me feel so safe just to be myself and to talk about my experiences. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that comes through because that is kind of what I do. I hold space until someone's ready to take it from me.
Yes. Love it.
All right. So everybody, check out all of Jeremy's stuff. I'll have all the links in the description. Make sure you go send him some love. Give him a follow on Instagram. Go ahead. You gotta go by. Yes. Everybody, check us all out. Go to my website, emmanuelkingman.com. Hit me up on my Gmail, the Great Chakra Awakening 777. Look at that. The
Yes,
great
Holy
chakra
Spirit.
awakening. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And Mimi, do you have any final words for our guests?
No, my thinking has been thrown off by many emergency. So I don't, but I can't wait until we have another conversation. I'm already excited for it.
Yeah.
Oh, so am I, Mimi.
Yeah, and we'll have to like meditate together or something
Yes,
at
yes.
some point. It'll be
I
very
love that.
powerful. I've been linking up with a lot of people from Canada, and I feel there's a big shift coming. And I'm south, I'm in Georgia, and you guys being in Canada, I feel it's wonderful spacing and timing. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We love you, and good night.
Have a good